Good morning. The May 20th, 2026 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. The board continues to meet in a hybrid format. For those here in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. For those attending virtually, if you desire an opportunity to speak, we ask that you please keep yourself on mute until the chair recognizes you. When you are called upon, please announce your name and organization and speak loudly and clearly as you present. At this time, I would ask our clerk for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions for today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. We have no corrections to note this morning. We have no walk-ons this morning. We have no deferrals this morning, and we have no withdrawals. Give yourselves a hand.
And yet we're still here.
And yet we're still here. That's right. We also have no protests, statements of opposition, or support to note this morning or here. We have the following items on the non-routine agenda this morning. SB 26-11206. Oh, I apologize. I think I'm out of sequence. SB 26-11311 for the Department of Housing and Community Development, termination of grant agreement, Unity Properties Incorporated. SB 26-11446, audits, biennial performance, audit of the Department of Finance, evaluation of controls over recording accounts receivable and monitoring of receipts for fiscal years 24 and 23. SB 26-11445, audits, biennial performance audit follow-up on Baltimore Police Department findings included in previous audit report for fiscal years 25 and 26. And SB 26-11206 for Public Works and Emergency Procurement with LB Water Service Incorporated. I did not receive abstentions for the Honorable Mayor this morning. Do we have any that I need to note? The Honorable President Zeke Cohen is abstaining, has no abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry is abstaining on all travel requests and reimbursements. City Solicitor Ebony Thompson has no abstentions to note this morning, and Director of Public Works Matthew Garbark has no abstentions to note. And Mr. Mayor, I can add your abstentions once
Mr. Mayor.
received for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure, just my standard ones, if there are any Hopkins-related things, will be an abstention for me.
So noted. The mayor is abstaining on any Hopkins-related transactions, and I'll confirm those numbers with your officer. Oh, yeah. I'm taking careful notes, sir. I also have the following no votes on the routine agenda. The Honorable President Zeke Cohen is voting no on the following transactions that are part of the routine agenda. SB 26-11363, Department of Transportation, award TR2 6001, reconstruction of footways citywide with Priority Construction Corp. for $2,241,185. SB 26-11360, Department of Transportation, award TR2 6008, reconstruction of alleys citywide with Santos Construction Company for $1,658,255. SB 26-11362, Department of Transportation, award TR2 6004, reconstruction of alleys citywide. And SB 26-11361, Department of Transportation, award TR2 6005, curb repair citywide with DIR Construction Incorporated. And that concludes our opening statement, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Appreciate that. We'll remind folks for my no votes, have had a great conversation with the Deputy Mayor, who I see is here today. My interest when it comes to the Department of Transportation and really any of our agencies is that we are doing as much work as we can in-house. That means more jobs for Baltimoreans. That means less of a overhead charge for taxpayers that go to consulting companies. And so we are going to continue to vote no on what I see as contracts that are being contracted out for work that we as an agency, as a city government, really should do. I look forward to continuing that conversation with the Deputy Mayor as well as the Director who I see is here as well. At this time, I ask a motion to approve and adopt the opening statement as read by the clerk.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The opening statement has been adopted. I now call board members' attention to the memorandum from the Council President's Office dated May 20th, 2026, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items, together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by the clerk. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the routine agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving the items on the routine agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The routine agenda items have been adopted. Seeing no further questions, we will now move to the non-routine agenda. I'm going to shift at the behest of the Department of Housing and Community Development and begin with an item from DHCD under SB 26-11311. This is a request to approve a mutual termination of a grant agreement with Unity Properties, Inc. in the amount of $2.5 million. On behalf of DHCD, we have Deputy Commissioner Wendy Redfern. Deputy Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Council President.
Ma'am, you have to. Got it.
Thank you. Good morning, Council President and board members. This morning, we have a grant agreement that is a termination.
I apologize. Just for the record, if you could introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. Wendy Redfern, Deputy Commissioner for Development in the Department of Housing and Community Development. The item this morning that is before you is a grant agreement termination. It was for Unity Properties. The grant is being terminated because of the time constraint involved in it. The grant was set to expire in October of 2026. It is our understanding that the developer will not be ready to close on the property until September. Because of that, there will not be enough time to spend down the funds in the grant term. There has been another funding source identified for the property, as long as that funding source is approved in the FY27 budget through the capital budgeting process. The total amount of the grant is $2.5 million. Again, there hasn't been any spend on the grant agreement, so we have found an alternative source so that the project can continue to move. But we needed to make sure that the funds, that our ARPA funds, are spent before the ultimate deadline for the city. Happy to answer any questions.
I see the comptroller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry. I'm just going to announce my name and the agency that I'm with. Bill Henry, Office of the Comptroller.
You got in
Thank you.
trouble with your boss, not with me. So, thank you, Celeste.
I'm not sure if this is technically an HCD question, but what is this ARPA money going to be reused for instead?
Yes.
And that's where.
Yes, my
Elizabeth-
colleague Elizabeth Tatum is
Yeah.
here from the Office of Recovery Programs. Can answer that.
It was on. It's on.
Good morning. Elizabeth Tatum. I serve as the Director of the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs. So now that we are past the obligation deadline for Treasury, we are able to reallocate funds to other existing projects. So no new projects, no new scope. So we are shifting these costs to another project in MOHS that will be able to spend those funds down quickly.
All of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all 2.5 million.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Great, thank you.
Oh, actually, I guess I should ask for the record, what's the other project in MOHS?
Shelter costs.
Shelter costs?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
This may be for the Deputy Director. How can we avoid having this problem with the next decision to allocate these funds? In other words, what adjustments are we making to ensure that the next grantee can actually use this money before the end of December this year? And either one of you or both could take that.
I'm happy to answer that. So the grantee was delayed. Like many other capital projects, they experienced delays in financing. They saw increased costs. Originally, they were planning to close in December of 2025. And just then, that timeline kept slipping. So with the change in funding source to capital, that will be, the timeline constraint will not be there. And they believe that they are positioned to close and then start the work in September of this year.
Got it. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Wendy and Elizabeth. Elizabeth, just for the record too, I think it's important for the council president and the comptroller to understand how meticulous you guys in recovery have been about these kind of projects and monitoring them along the way, and being able to, make sure that the money is actually used and spent in the right and proper way. I just think it's good for the public order to know, especially, I think, just a little bit of revisionist history for all of us, what happened with capital projects post the pandemic and the skyrocketing of costs, and then, of course, the insanity of the world over the last year plus, and what that meant for nonprofits and organizations like this one.
We are continuing to monitor all of our ARPA projects through to the end. We have $55 million left to spend. And so Mr. Mayor is right. We are working carefully to do project-by-project reviews to identify anything that might have underspend, and then a plan to reallocate those dollars and get them spent down quickly.
55 million out of how much?
$641 million.
All right, thank you.
We're at 90% spent.
Objection, leading question.
To the mayor's premise here, could you talk a little bit about, I know that right now the capital is somewhat challenged, that there are, as the mayor said, post-pandemic, there were a number of delays. There's now issues around oil in the Strait of Hormuz. Could you talk about sort of like how hard are these types of projects at this moment in time? Clearly, right post-pandemic, there was all these supply chain delays. There were all kinds of problems. Where is it at now for something like this?
Thank you, Council President. That's a great question. So every project is different,
Sure.
but there are some market dynamics that we have to account for. Most of the projects that we see that come through our office have some type of low-income housing tax credit attached to it because it is affordable housing. When that is involved, the tax credit numbers can fluctuate, right? What the pricing can fluctuate. That means that the project costs will also fluctuate. So that is probably one of the main things that we've seen and that we've tried to recalibrate for and make sure that there's a balance or additional funds that needs to be put to the project. And as the mayor mentioned, that just the cost of construction has also gone up. All of these dynamics are taken into account. And so what we do here internally is make an assessment of how we can be supportive of the project if there is a rebalancing of the financing that has to happen. We also work with our state partners to do that as well. So between the two of us, we do our best to make sure that we're supportive of the project so they can continue to move forward in the manner that it was already kind of slated to do. It's just the timing. It's difficult to determine the timing in a consistent way as it was before because of the dynamics that I'm mentioning. So pricing is changing, construction costs are going up, but at the same time, we are paying attention to and working with our development partner to make sure that there's proper subsidy in the project that can keep it moving forward.
Understood. Any other questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, back to our normal program. The next item on the non-routine agenda is from the Department of Audits under SB 2611446. This is a request to note the biennial performance audit of the Department of Finance and their controls over recording accounts receivable and monitoring receipts for fiscal years 2024 and 2023. On behalf of audits, we have City Auditor Josh Pash. Mr. Pash, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, honorable members.
My name is Josh Pash, and I am here to present the biennial performance audit for the Department of Finance, evaluation of controls over recording of accounts receivable and monitoring receipts. Second time in a row that the PowerPoint went up on time.
That's hilarious,
Assistance.
All right, good start off to the morning. Okay. So I will go, I want to start off by thanking our audit team for their work on this, and also the Department of Finance management team and all the staff at BAPS and the BRC that helped us through the audit. We'd especially like to recognize the suit section, Karen Daughtery and her team. They were especially helpful in helping us understand the multiple invoice types, AR methods, and billing, and the different ways they are done. Next slide, please. I'll go over our audit scope and objective, the risks we identified, our methodology, some background information, and our findings, and then take any questions. Next slide. Okay. So audit objective and scope, to evaluate the controls over recording of accounts receivable for items billed and monitoring of receipts. We looked at fiscal years 24 and 23. We focused on invoices that were billed by Department of Finance on behalf of other agencies. We excluded parts of the billing process handled outside of Department of Finance, such as water billing, so we could stay focused. And we also excluded collection efforts performed by the law department. We focused on collection efforts by the BRC. Okay, so the invoice types that we selected, for Workday, we selected conduits, leases, loans, misc utility, permits, and pilots. And then just the way we selected which invoice types we were going to audit, we selected those based on the size, the frequency of billings, and the rate of non-payment, and these are the ones that we selected. Now, this chart shows invoices that were issued during fiscal year 24, that's July 1 of 23 to June 30th, 2024, and in Workday. And the outstanding balance column is as of October 27th, 2025. Just to point out, you'll notice the conduit bills appear both in Workday and our MBSS miscellaneous billing system chart, and that's because the BGE conduit bills are billed through Workday, and all the rest are through the miscellaneous billing system. I do want to point out, to make some clarity, so the original balance is the invoices that were billed during the fiscal year. The unpaid balance is as of October 27th. The unpaid balance does not necessarily represent a complete invoice. So it could include partial payments of the invoices, so you won't see necessarily a clear ratio between the bill numbers and the bills unpaid to the unpaid balance, because we're just looking at focus on dollar amounts. Next slide. And this is basically the same thing for fiscal year 23. Next slide. For a miscellaneous billing system, we selected conduits, PACE loans, industrial surcharge, and special benefit TIFs. Again, we were looking at fiscal year 24 that was issued, and the outstanding balances as of November 18th, 2025. I want to point out that conduits here is the only non-lienable bill, and you can see that they have the greatest amount outstanding. Next slide. It's the same thing for fiscal year 23, and again, conduits are the only non-lienable bill, and they also have the greatest amount outstanding. Next slide. So when we were doing our planning, we identified operational risk and fraud risk that we were going to focus on. Next slide. Okay, our audit methodology. So we interviewed key personnel from Department of Finance, conducted walkthroughs to gain an understanding of the billing and monitoring of receipts processes. We had 4 findings related to that. We identified and assessed the significant process risks as well as controls implemented by Department of Finance to mitigate those risks. Those are the same 4 findings. We analyzed billing and receivable data extracted from Workday and the miscellaneous billing system to identify outstanding balances and the prevalence of delinquency for different invoice types. We have 2 findings related to that. We randomly selected a sample of Workday invoices to determine whether accounts receivable is automatically recorded in Workday once invoices are approved. We have no finding. It is automatically recorded. We randomly selected delinquent Workday invoices to analyze and assess whether they were identified and followed up timely by BRC, the suit section, and the final bill and legal notice was issued appropriately on time, and referrals to the law department were made in accordance with the established procedures, and that we have one finding on that. We selected a sample of MBSS invoices, determined whether they're automatically sent, the second and third. I'll talk more about that later. There's no finding there, they are. We randomly selected Workday invoices, determined whether canceled invoices were canceled for a legitimate reason, and they were approved. We have one finding there. And then we also tested loans, leases, and pilot agreements to determine whether that recurring billing was performed in accordance with the agreement terms. And we also reviewed the tracking mechanism used by accounts receivable, make sure that's effective. We have one finding there, and I will talk more along the lines of that process. Okay. So the process, and this is as defined by Department of Finance. So the AR team is within BAPS, and they are going to create bills for different invoice types on behalf of city agencies, whether in the Workday or the miscellaneous billing system. So an agency will perform a service. They will send the information to bill for that service to BAPS.
Josh, for the viewing public, could you define BABS?
Bureau of Accounts, Bureau of Accounting and Payroll Services.
Thank you.
So we have under Department of Finance, we have the Bureau of Accounting and Payroll Services, and we also have the Bureau of Revenue Collections. And then under the Bureau of Revenue Collections, we have the suit section. Don't ask me why it's called the suit section, because I asked and I don't know. If anyone does know, I would love to have the answer. Okay. So BAPS will create the invoice in Workday or the miscellaneous billing system, and then for Workday, it'll be recorded automatically. For the miscellaneous billing system, a transaction in the financial records is not recorded until the payment is received, so there is no accounts receivable recorded in our system. And then BRC is responsible for receiving and posting those payments. They also identify delinquent accounts and follow up on those. And then if their follow-up is unsuccessful, there is a process to send them to the Department of Law for collection. Okay. So for recording of accounts receivable, certain invoice types are billed on an as-needed basis, such as missed utility, conduits, permits, PACE loans, industrial surcharge, and special benefit TIF. And other invoices are billed in increments over a defined period of time, such as loans, leases, and pilots. So basically what this means is for the category on the left, the agency will send a request for each invoice to be billed. And for the categories on the right, the agency will send an agreement that tells BAPS how to bill it over a period of time. So I do want to note that some of those billed as requested one time are billed over a regular basis, whether it's monthly or semi-annually. However, they're in that category because the agency will tell the Department of Finance for each billing to send out that billing. And then for the billed over time, BAPS will manually enter any recurring billing information into internal tracking spreadsheet, and they will use that to prepare their monthly billing. So each bill is set as a one-on-one bill. However, like I mentioned, for the ones on the left, agency initiates each bill, and the ones on the right, Department of Finance will. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the monitoring collection, this is the internal process. So BAPS will issue the invoice, and then after 90 days, a final billing notice will be sent to the customer, and then after 30 days of non-collection, it is referred to the law department. This does not include conduit, pilot, or miscellaneous billing systems, which I'd mentioned miscellaneous billing system, well, I'll get that a little bit later, but are automatically billed by the system. And I do want to note, for reference to the law department's collection, the Maryland State statute of limitations is 3 years. So basically, Bureau of Revenue Collections can investigate and follow up on invoices at any time. However, the law department is limited to 3 years from the issuance of the invoice.
Mr. Comptroller?
Just a quick clarification. When you said that this does not include conduit, pilot, or any MBSS bills, do you mean that they don't, the invoice to final billing doesn't include that, or they don't get referred to the law department if they're not paid?
So for a miscellaneous billing system, and I will kind of go back to this a little bit later.
Okay.
The system automatically will bill that. It doesn't go through this process by BAPS and BRC. And then for the pilots, the law department has in their department basically following pilots altogether. And then conduits I'd mentioned go through the miscellaneous billing system, which has 2 follow-ups, which I'll get to later, and then I'll get to that later.
But they all go to the law department if they're not paid.
No. Miscellaneous billing do not go to the law department, and conduits do not go to the law department. And pilots start with the law department.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. So for loans, leases, mixed utility, and permits that are pursued by BRC, the suits section will, on a monthly basis, search for invoices that are over 90 days old. And then once the final billing notice is sent out, it is forwarded to law if it's unpaid after 30 days after the final billing letter is sent, if it's greater than a threshold of $500. So we use 45 days as a threshold for sending the FB final bill notice to the law department to adjust for timing of when BRC does the review. And then we also evaluated if the final bill notice is sent to law late, whether it's sent within 2.5 years, and we estimated a half of year wiggle room for the law department to do pursuance. So we didn't want to say that they were sent to the law department within 3 years of the invoice type, because then the law department would not have time to pursue them. Okay. So as mentioned, pilots and conduits are not sent final billing notice. The law department handles the pilots from the beginning, and the conduits go through the miscellaneous billing system, which I will talk about a little bit later. We looked at 5 pilot transactions totaling $233,000 as of February 19th, 2026. 4 of them totaling $108,000 were still outstanding. And then for the miscellaneous billing system, the final billing notice is automatically sent at 45 days when they're old and 105 days when they're old. And then the lienable bills may be included in the tax sale process, but there's no additional follow-up for non-lienable bills. So non-lienable bills meaning conduits, whereas PACE bills, industrial surcharge, and special benefit are lienable and can be included in the tax sale process. Okay, that's my background information. Any questions before I go on to the findings? Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay, so our first finding on untimely collection efforts reduce collectability of delinquent accounts. So we noted final billing notices were not consistently issued within the expected time frame. We noted that referrals to the law department were often delayed beyond periods that support chances of recovery, which is at 2.5 years. The effect is untimely and unreliable collection efforts reduce the likelihood of recovery, reduced collections or delayed recovery of funds owed to the city, diminished deterrence effect for non-payments by our customers if they know that we don't really collect, and then the accumulation of aged receivables require additional collection efforts because they have, BRC has a lot more to go through to follow up on. Next slide. Okay. So for the FBL end, Department of Audits judgmentally selected a 120-day benchmark. That was based on the suit section, looking at accounts that were 90 days old, but then they do that analysis once a month to allow for time of those together. And then, so we selected 60 samples for final bill notices. 13 did not have a final bill notice issued, so a 22% exception rate that they were not following their procedures. The 5 pilot invoices are excluded because those are completely handled by the law department. And for the 42 final bill notices sent, 42 were issued after 120 days. That's 100% that were beyond their procedures. Of the 42 invoices that were referred to the law department, or should have been, 6 were not referred at all, which is 14%. 22 were not required to be referred, so they were either paid or below the threshold. And then of the 14 remaining invoices that were referred, 7 of them were referred after the 2.5 year period. Next slide. Okay, so we looked at causes. So we noted that there were staffing shortages in the section. The collection responsibilities, specifically those related to customer research, issuance of the final bill, and resolution of customer disputes, and referred to law department, were assigned to a single staff member for most of the audit period. We did know that the staff has since increased to 3. We also noted the collection procedures rely on informal practices rather than comprehensive written policies and procedures. And our recommendation is to put together policies and procedures, specifically defining what to do when they are sending out the final bill notices, the referral to law department, and timelines related to that, and then to do training for the staff according to those policies and procedures. Next slide. Our second finding. Invoices with a low likelihood of collection remain reported in accounts receivable and revenue accounts. So invoices remain in accounts receivable beyond the period when collection could reasonably be expected, beyond the 3-year benchmark. We noted that approximately $6 million, or 15%, were outstanding over 3 years as of June 30th, and then as of December 31st, 2025, approximately $8.5 million were over 3 years old. So I just want to point out that these numbers are only referring to those invoice types that were in scope, which I had mentioned in the earlier slide for the Workday invoice types. When we looked into why these are not being written off in the system, we noted that the suit section can still initiate collection attempts. However, for these, the legal department cannot initiate legal recourse. So what's the effect? So we have overstated accounts receivable and revenue amounts in our financial statements because we have basically the asset accounts receivable stated even though the collectability is low likelihood. And we did note that as a citywide annual comprehensive financial report, there is a citywide adjustment to reduce our assets by these uncollectible accounts. However, they still remain in the detailed financial records. This causes inefficiencies for collection efforts, for staff have many more invoices to go through and to decide which they should be spending time to pursuing. And then also, we are making collection efforts on accounts unlikely to be recovered. Next slide. Okay, so we looked at causes. The city does not have a write-off policy. As I mentioned, the write-offs are done during the annual financial report, and at that high level, based on analysis done then. The adjustments that are made based on collectability are made on a case-by-case basis at the discretion of either the Department of Law or the agency who sent the bill to finance. And the way the accounting adjustments are made is they make a direct adjustment to the owed balance to an individual invoice down to 0, which is the same process they use when they have errors in billing, such as duplicate billing, or if the bill was created for the wrong customer or wrong amount. Thus, this method of writing off accounts by making these adjustments means that it's not possible for the city to know the dollar value and the frequency of items written off as the adjustments are made in the normal course of business of correcting invoices. Our recommendation there is to put together policies and procedures addressing delinquent receivables across all revenue types and how to handle those situations. Next slide. Our third finding, invoices were issued inconsistent with underlying contract terms. This is for the reoccurring bills when the agency sends an agreement to Department of Finance to bill at regular intervals. So we found, so the effect is, we found that invoices were billed inconsistent with those supporting documentation sent by the agency. This could result in underbilling and reduced revenue collections. It can result in overbilling that could damage relationships with our customers. And then it also puts undue administrative burden on our staff, the 3 who are required to investigate and correct errors. Next slide. Okay. So for pilots, we selected 30 pilots for testing. 7 of those pilots, we noted that they had at least 1 month of the billing schedule that was not billed, which is 23%. One of those was actually not billed from 2011 to 2025. We looked into that one, and The last billing, which was in January 2011, was for $25,000 for a semi-annual. We did a calculation estimation of the 28 missed billings for this pilot is estimated at a total revenue loss of $700,000. That's just using the $25,000 basis. Many pilots, taxpayers are required to either pay the lesser of the calculated pilot amount or the taxes owed for the period. And for this one, Department of Finance was not able to provide evidence that the taxes were paid for this taxpayer. Okay, back to our chart. We found one that had duplicate billing, so overbilling. We found two that were billed the incorrect amount. Basically, the contract terms specified that they would bill a certain amount and they were billed a different amount. And then 4 was using outdated billing information. So basically, we found that many of the pilot bills are calculated based on self-reported financial information provided by the customer, and then that amount is typically recalculated annually and sent to Department of Finance. For example, a pilot could be 10% of the prior year's self-reported rental income, and the updated information to do the billing was not received or available for Department of Finance to ensure that the billing is used on the most current information. Next slide. So for loans, we looked at 10 loans. 4 had an incorrect principal and interest allocation. So basically, with a loan, we give money out to the third party, and then they pay us back over on a regular basis. And that payment includes a principal and an interest allocation. However, when we recorded in our financial records, that allocation was incorrect. For lease billing, we looked at 10 leases. 2 were billed the incorrect amount, which is 20%. It wasn't in line with the lease terms. And then 1 did not escalate the rent as required, so there was escalation terms that were not applied to the billing. And then 2 were billed beyond the lease term, so the supporting documentation we had stopped at a certain point. However, billing continued beyond that, and there was no supporting documentation to support that it should be billed or the amount being billed. Next slide. Okay, so we looked at causes. We did note that invoices are reviewed prior to approval. However, that review did not consistently go back to the underlying agreements and supporting documentation. There are detective controls that go back and look at bills that were already sent. Those are usually ad hoc reviews or error corrections, and they occur irregularly and do not ensure timely detection or inaccuracies. Our recommendation is they develop policies and procedures of how to review invoice amounts against underlying contract documentation, and then regular reviews of their internal tracking spreadsheet, which they use to bill and which they use to identify what should be billed on a monthly or quarterly basis, and to make sure that those are also in accordance with underlying documentation. Okay, next line, finding 4. Loan receivables are not recorded at the origination, resulting in misstated receivables and revenue recognition. So instead of recording the full loan receivable when the loan is issued, because that is an asset to us, money is owed to us, invoices are generated based on repayment schedule. And there is no reconciliation of the total amounts billed, paid against the original loan balance, determined whether full loan balance was billed at the end of the loan term, which would not only be looking at the amount billed, but the principal portion of the amount billed. And so when invoices are approved and issued, both the principal and interest components are recorded as revenue. So for loans, the bill should be divided up into a repayment of the principal portion plus an interest portion. However, it is billed as one number, and thus overstating the receivables. Next slide. Okay, cause. So the current billing methodology treats every scheduled loan payment as a standalone billing rather than recording and tracking the full loan balance and then posting those payments against the full loan balance so that we know how much of our accounts receivable or loan receivable balance is left. We recommend that they record the full principal amount of each loan as loan receivable, and that apply payments against that receivable balance, and then when they do that, only recognizing the interest portion as revenue. Therefore, they will know how much is left on the loan, and then also know when they've collected the full loan balance. And then for the loans that are already being billed, go back, do a reconciliation of those to make sure that the total principal portion of the billed amounts cover the original loan balance to make sure that it has been fully recovered. Finding 5. Insufficient follow-up on outstanding balances in the miscellaneous billing system, going back to the 2 automated billings. So for non-lienable miscellaneous billing system bills, there is no additional follow-up or escalation process for outstanding balances beyond the automatic billing reminders. So reminder that MBSS will automatically send out a bill if not paid at 45 days, and then also at 105 days. However, once those are sent, there is no follow-up by BRC, no sending to the law department. The only, I guess, other procedures would be a potential tax sale, which doesn't apply to the pilots.
So, Mr. Pash, I'm just going to pause you there for a clarification question. So what you are articulating is that for non-lienable bills, that there's a notice that goes out and then a follow-up, but beyond that, nothing happens? Like if I am in this category and I choose either willfully or unintentionally to not pay my bill to the city of Baltimore, what happens?
Nothing. There is no investigation analysis by the city, and so basically it would just be waiting for the vendor to pay. And so if we noted back on our previous slide, so for conduits, there was an outstanding balance of $1.4 million, 17%. Those are not lienable, and there's no pursuance to those. And then for the PACE loans, industrial surcharge and special benefit, and again, those are the ones that we selected for our testing to narrow scope. Those, the only follow-up would be if they were sent to tax sale.
Okay, that is concerning. So just to be clear, we're not then sending them to the law department for follow-up. There's no sort of next step here.
Correct.
It's just,
They just stay on our financial records.
okay. More to come.
Okay, so as of November of 2025, $2.7 million in receivables from the audit period remained outstanding. Again, our audit period was fiscal year 23 and 24. And we noted that ineffective follow-up can weaken overall collection effectiveness and then basically put that burden on our compliant taxpayers. Okay. So we looked at the causes. Basically, accounts that are not eligible for tax sale, as you mentioned, do not receive any additional follow-up beyond those automated delinquent notices. There's no routine manual review. There's no escalation. There's no referral to the law department. There's no detailed account analysis to determine appropriate collection actions. So our recommendation is basically to put together policies and procedures, basically to do that, to define follow-up procedures for delinquent miscellaneous billing accounts, escalation steps, criteria to refer to the law department, et cetera. Okay, next slide. Okay, finding 5. Invoices were canceled without approval or documented justification. So in the Workday system, to create an invoice, there is an approval process. However, Workday does not require approval to cancel an invoice, and there is no required field to require a reason for cancellation. We identified 2,774 invoices totaling $82 million created during the audit period that were later canceled. I do want to point out that one of those invoices was for $58 million, which was an obvious error, and it was canceled. I do want to point out that Workday retains records of the canceled invoices. However, like I said, there is no required approval to cancel an invoice. For the approved invoices that were canceled by, we also noted that there was approved invoices that were canceled by personnel outside of the BAPS AR team, including staff from other departments. Those departments, for example, were Department of Real Estate and Department of Housing and Community Development. We did investigate those. We didn't find any evidence of fraudulent activity. Every invoice that was canceled by those departments was actually related to billing requests sent by those departments to the Department of Finance. And then when we notified the Department of Finance, they reached out to those agencies and told them not to do that. Okay, so what's the effect? Basically, the ability to cancel invoices without approval, without restriction to Department of Finance, creates an opportunity for improper revenue reductions, concealment of unauthorized adjustments, and then this control weakness increases the risk of revenue loss, circumventing established approval controls, and potential misuse of system access. Next slide. Okay, so we looked for causes. Workday does not have controls around invoice cancellation, except for system user access. However, that was not restricted very much. And then there is, like I said, an approval to create invoices and to make adjustments. However, cancellations can be performed without supervisor approval. Our recommendation is to put a requirement and control in Workday for cancellation of invoices that and to require documentation for the reason for that cancellation. And then also, as a secondary control, to designate personnel to periodically review the canceled invoices as they are retained in Workday, and to also document those reviews so that they don't have to review the same invoices twice. And then to establish form policies and procedures to provide guidance on that process. Okay, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pash. I, again, appreciate the thoroughness of this audit. I will say the findings are extremely disturbing. We cannot be in a situation where bills are not collected for the city of Baltimore. We put a lot of weight on our residents, whether that's through water billing, taxes, various means of collecting to support the important work of local government. But when we're not collecting on bills, that means someone else is paying for it.
Right.
There is no free lunch here. And so I find these findings both thorough and disturbing. I did want to ask, first off, do we know or even have an estimate the total number that has not been collected based on your findings?
So the amounts that I put in the report are those ones for the revenue types and the invoice types that we selected. And then also, we specifically focused on those that were billed during the period and did not look at invoice billed that were prior to that. So we can get that number, but we specifically reported, we're looking at controls and processes that were in effect during fiscal year 23 and 24. And so we focused on those that were billed during that period. So this is a subset of the total amount, number one, because we didn't look at prior to fiscal year 23. And it's also a subset because we selected specific billing types to look into.
Understood. So there's not, the methodology here is such that you're looking at sort of a snapshot and you don't have a total of about how much has been missed out on.
Right. So the number is available. I do not have it as of this time, but that is something that could be pulled and could be sent to you.
I would love to see that number.
Okay.
Thank you. Madam Solicitor?
Thank you so much for the findings. I had a question just in terms of, did you find that this is something that can be automated through Workday in terms of the notification? Because I'm, of course, concerned about the piece where it's not coming to the law department for collections, who's been doing it. We're been doing a really good job of actually implementing systems. So is there an automated piece within Workday that can somehow trigger to the law department as they're given those default notifications? Is there some way that we can maybe tie that in to the system? And if not, of course, it's going to be a shameless plug for blockchain. So, because I'm seeing it. So if we don't already have it existing, I would be more than happy to come up with a way to satisfy this. But I wanted to see first if it exists.
Right. So we did give recommendations to use Workday as a tool. We did not go into the capabilities that are current activated in Workday. So that would be an investigation that would have to be done by BSID and Finance to see those different approval paths, because there could be unintended consequences where you might get notified too early. But that would have to be that would have to be researched, which is one of the recommendations.
Mr. Comptroller?
Thank you, Mr. President. The shameless plug for blockchain is fine as long as we accept the fact that the other side of that coin is the heartless dig at Workday, and but that may be appropriate. And I think I want to call attention to this because I think we talked about this previously in the briefing, that is an aspect where it's really not collections' fault that Workday doesn't support doing it. But it is something that finance could address in terms of coming up with either a way for Workday to do it, because like we keep finding, like we have now implemented Workday for a while, and we keep finding components of Workday that Workday offers, but we did not purchase when we originally got into this because we didn't think we would need it then.
We didn't purchase it.
Well, yeah, okay, that's that. We the city, big picture, we the city. All right. Like for example, when we found out we did not purchase the check register function, and we thought it would be a simple matter to just look at what checks we'd written, but we had not purchased that component from Word. So that may be something that we can work out. But that is why it's a recommendation to the Director of Finance and not a recommendation for BRC. I just wanted to be clear.
So there is multiple like Workday components in the finding. So when it comes to cancellation of invoices, our understanding is that can be an added control to that. When it comes to sending stuff to the law department, at a bare minimum, there can be automatically generated reports of invoices that reach a certain age, yes, outstanding, and then be sent to whoever it wants to be sent to, and that would be at a minimum. I know we've seen that before.
Mr. President.
I got the mayor and then the director of DPW.
No, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Auditor. I just want to follow up on the comptroller's the comment, and just for us to level set here, Mr. Comptroller, you're totally right. We know that anytime you're dealing with a system and a new system, especially as long as the time it had been since the city had a new system, there's going to be kinks and things that you have to add on. All of those things are understandable. But what I don't want us to do in this moment is veer away from the simple reality that even when you have the best system, a system is only as good as the information put into it. And I know we all got a lot of questions, but all of mine are for the Department of Finance, because there is no way in hell that we should have this amount of money just standing out there. And I don't care what system we have. If it's one built by the best computer programmer on the Board of Estimates dais, it still will have holes in it because it depends on people. And I know that, and just as the council president said, that, you know, if someone, just because we get these complaints all the time, they get a red light camera ticket and they miss the deadline, they get the notice very quickly that their costs are going up. We have to have the same vigor for these kind of things. And I know Matt has questions, but I just really want us to get to the Department of Finance so we can see what has changed and what needs to change.
Director Garbart?
I will hold my question for the Department of Finance.
Okay. Anyone else for the auditor? Hearing and seeing none. We will now turn to the Department of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Auditor. On behalf of the administration, we have Director of the Department of Finance, Michael Moxton. Director Moxton, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning. My name is Michael Moxton, Director of the Department of Finance. I will take us through a presentation. Absolutely. We will take you through a presentation that addresses all of the findings and some detail. While that's loading, I'll just make a few general comments. First, I want to start off by thanking the Audits Department and Auditor Pash in particular. Department of Finance and Department of Audits sort of chose this topic jointly because it is of such importance to the city to make sure that we are collecting every dollar that we can. There's been a lot of work over the last several years to improve our collections, to get out of the sort of COVID era and pre-workday difficulties that we had had. And there's been a lot of notable progress both during the audit period and after the audit period that we will show you in just a moment, as well as some clear next steps for us that we need to keep working on. But at the highest level, if you go back 3 to 4 years, we simply didn't have the staff. We had significant staffing shortages across both revenue collections and accounting, and those staffing shortages have now been filled. That's a very important step in us doing our work. Over the last couple of years now have the right people in place, and we have been focusing on training and standard operating procedures. A lot of what happens with these types of bills, particularly non-lienable bills, has been ad hoc and based on individual people's information. And we are turning those ad hoc processes into standard processes, which are very aligned with the auditor's recommendations. So I want to now take you one by one through the findings and through our work on addressing each of those. So I will pass it over to Deputy Director Ioana Moisidis.
Good morning, Ioana Moisidis, Deputy Director of Finance. Good morning to members of the board and to the public. This is a critically important area, as noted, and I think the generating change concept is critically important. I thank the administration for that consistent urging to do that, and in part, as Director Moxton mentioned, that's why we were pleased to partner. And I say partner, people often don't say that with auditors, but we view them, the Department of Audits, as an important resource for the city. The biennial performance audits are a great opportunity to focus on particular areas and really target things that need a drill down examination. And we're thankful for the Department of Audits for that. Centralizing kind of my comments as we walk through the findings and the corrective actions on 3 kind of areas. So people, that's staffing and training. And I do want to point out that while that is critically staffing within the Bureau of Accounting and Payroll Services and the Bureau of Revenue Collections, both of which had an extensive amount of vacancies, but also the training and communication that we need to do external to the agency. Our role in finance as a support agency, providing clear expectations, guidelines, and guidance to our partner agencies that are, in many cases, the source of that billing information. Policy. Every finding identified that there did not exist a formal standardized policy. That's unacceptable, and that will be addressed. And then finally, on technology. As noted, we're not making as effective use of the tools that we have. Anytime you do a conversion to an enterprise-wide system, you focus on things kind of in order, right? So accounts payable, of course, it started with finance and was turned over to the comptroller, but accounts payable was critical in the implementation. Payroll and HR were critical. And then as we moved on, we began to build out the grants management portion, and now looking, of course, at accounts receivable. So I do want to mention, and that's moving on to slide 3, progress since the audit period. The work that's been done that doesn't directly impact these findings, but creates that structure for change, right? So the city did complete, through everyone really in this room's efforts, the FY25 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report and Single Audit on time. This was the first on-time completion in many years, and it required the building of significant coordination across finance and accounting functions, but also throughout the city, and really reflects our focus on a more disciplined operational posture. We also reduced the total number of audit findings and material weaknesses. We added key finance and accounting positions that were either added, restructured, and recruited for to strengthen the oversight. We expanded Workday capabilities, including improved reporting and reconciliation tools. And while these findings don't resolve, while these process improvements don't resolve the findings for this finding, they establish the foundation for those corrective actions. So moving on to finding 1, untimely collection efforts. Finding 1 identifies delinquent accounts that were not consistently followed up on. It's important to contextualize, and I think this was mentioned in the audit report, during the audit period, the entire collection follow-up process for these particular bills, the research, issuance of disputes, responding to customer concerns, referral, was managed by a single staff member on legacy systems. That is not sustainable. The suit section, I know the Department of Audits noted that there were 3 employees. That's actually 4 employees now. But we know that staffing is not enough. With staffing comes the need for formalized procedures. So outlining our action plan milestones, by August 1st, 2026, Revenue Collections will implement LexisNexis batch search. This is going to help automate. It's a tool that can make the search and the follow-up more efficient for staff members. Formal standard operating procedures and policy guidance documents will also be finalized by that time period and staff training delivered. That's internal staff training, but understanding that we will have that external staff training needed as well. The longer-term milestones extend out through August 2027. I think that's one of our longest milestones. And the reason for that is that in the automation of the collections process as part of the modernization initiative, we have a number of interim steps leading to transitioning the bills. And so the measure of success for this, though, although the technology piece will be more complicated and has the extended time frame, the measure of success really is straightforward. They have to be acted upon in defined timelines, and there have to be written procedures that we're following consistently. Moving to slide 2, aged receivables remaining in AR. So the absence of, again, a formal written policy meant that these legacy aged uncollectible receivables stayed on the system. The action point for this is by August 1st, 2026, the Bureau of Revenue Collections will require agencies to review their accounts for accuracy, provide guidance to agencies on that review, and that's okay. And by BRC will require agencies to review accounts for accuracy, I'm not sure when it cut out, provide guidance to agencies on that review, and ensure supporting documentation is uploaded. That will also set out our schedule for training not only of staff within the agency, but also agency staff that are submitting the documentation and information to BRC for billing. And just noting, it is a historical issue with the city with turnover. What we find is that in the agency, the person that did the thing that got sent to the Department of Finance is no longer there. And without those written policies and processes that exist beyond our tenure, that kind of gap will continue to occur. And that is what we are aiming to eliminate. Finding 3, billing inconsistent with contract terms. So finding 3 addresses the billing accuracy. The root cause, again, is those effective preventive controls that require reviewing invoices to contract terms, having a process for follow-up. The Bureau of Accounting and Payroll Services will address this by drafting a formal billing policy, developing standard operating procedures for the establishment and review of bills. And both of these are occurring by May 31st of this year. So that's 2026. We acknowledge that after implementation of the policy and standard operating procedures, we have a 90-day timeline built in to get feedback and to further refine, but we felt it was important to make that first step by walking and have a policy put out there, and that's the reason for that aggressive timeline. With That to be followed by formal monthly and quarterly billing data reviews. So that will be implemented. We'll create performance metrics on billing accuracy. Those will both be established by June 30th, 2026. That will be followed by incorporating those metrics into staff performance individual goals by December 31st of 2026. Moving on to finding 4, loan receivables not recorded at origination. This is an effort to addressing this by strengthening loan tracking and accounting processes. So how do we address this? By May 31st of this month, so May 31st of this year, at the end of this month, BAPS will communicate to all agencies the proper channels for loan documentation and submission. So that process of what happens after an agreement is approved at the Board of Estimates is that gap that we will fill. BAPS will also establish a centralized mailbox for approved loan documentation. That will be followed by a formal loan management accounting policy. So how do we treat the issuance of loans by July 1st of 2026. By September 15th of 2026, then, BAPS will reconcile outstanding loan balances. So that's working with the agencies to ensure we have identified any outstanding loans and make the necessary adjustments to ensure accurate reporting. This finding really illustrates the broader challenge of managing financial processes across multiple agencies without having that standardized intake and communication process, and the centralized communication protocols and policy together establish the structure that was missing. Moving on to finding 5, which is the insufficient follow-up on MBSS balances. And this was the discussion that was pretty robust around non-lienable accounts remaining outstanding. So I want to point first to the corrective actions that we're focusing on, which is by August 1st, BRC will work with BSIT to obtain additional reporting on delinquent non-lienables from the system. At that point, we'll issue FBLNs where appropriate for delinquent accounts. And I say where appropriate because we've already acknowledged there are some receivables that may be well beyond a time period where it's appropriate to issue. We'll also be doing some cross-referencing, again, with the LexisNexis system to ensure that we have things like a person that or entity that still exists is in business, where are they located, et cetera. Staff guidelines on managing those delinquencies will also be implemented by that time frame, and that will include the escalation steps, the referral to law criteria, so we'll be working with our partners in law, as well as to the agencies. The longer-term solution by August of 2027 is to transition all non-lienable billing into Workday. So that's from the legacy MBSS system to the Workday system. This will bring these accounts into the same collection infrastructure as other billing types. That allows for easier reporting and more transparency. Moving to finding 6, invoice cancellations without approval. Finding 6 was a control deficiency. Workday currently requires approval for invoice creation and adjustment, but not for the cancellation. To address this, by May 31st, 2026, and I believe it's currently active. Yes, so our goal was that we would work to restrict the cancel invoice features to identified BAP staff only. We actually implemented that already at the end of April. So that's in effect. The next step to that is the policy guidance and update to the agencies about why it is that they can no longer cancel their invoices and the process for submitting those cancellations. The inbox, I believe, has been created for mailing those requests, and the next step is instituting the regular management review of canceled invoices. So after it is canceled in BAPS, someone in BAPS management is checking again to ensure kind of the frequency of cancellations, the nature of them, the appropriateness. And that brings us to the questions, and I know that we have many, so.
Thank you, Deputy Director. I'm going to start, I know the comptroller has a clarifying question, and then I have several questions,
Sure.
and the mayor does as well.
Thank
Start
you.
with Comptroller Henry.
Yeah, I had one, it's for, I think technically it's a BAPS question, and I don't think it's a staffing issue. I think it's a policy issue, but if there's an underlying reason for the policy issue, that's where I'm trying to get at. So when Josh was showing us the two different buckets of the items that are billed as requested versus the ones that are treated as recurring, why are the conduit fees treated as requested and not recurring, given that we effectively have a lease arrangement with all the people paying the conduit fees? Why aren't they just getting regularly billed? And the follow-up for that is, and why are those not referred to the law department for non-payment?
So I will try
yeah.
to answer, and my team can jump up if they see that they have something to add. Noting that some bills that are treated as non-recurring, like they come once, are actually billed at intervals, but they are, I wish I had the auditor's chart.
Well, let's just focus on conduits for right now. Oh, actually,
I can speak to that.
you've got a deputy mayor who wants to tag in.
Yep. Oh, I'm happy for that.
Good morning, Khalil
Good morning.
Zaid, Deputy Mayor for Operations.
Yeah.
As for the conduit itself, what usually happens on a monthly basis, the conduit groups send that linear footage to finance. Finance on a monthly basis have that information, and on biannual basis, the Department of Finance bill those conduit holders per the leases that they have. So they do actually biannually do that.
Okay, so they are recurring, or they?
It's
are-
scheduled to be recurrent on biannual basis.
Okay, so let me check and see if this is one of those fun vocabulary issues where it's recurring in that transportation puts the numbers together on a regular basis.
Monthly basis.
But finance is treating it as when they get a request from transportation, they bill.
My understanding, that is finance does it in May and does it also, I think, in November, twice a year, where they send that information to the billing, the actual bills.
Okay.
They send it to the leaseholders.
Okay, I'm going to put a pin in that because that may be one where I'll go back and check with audits and we'll
Okay.
see if that's just a vocabulary
Sure.
issue. I am, though, very interested in what is the underlying rationale for why those wouldn't get referred to the law department for non-payment?
So I want to distinguish a few things.
I
think there-
apologize. Very,
oh, I
very
apologize.
briefly, Deputy Mayor, the mayor wanted to, I'm sorry, Deputy Director, the mayor wants to jump in real quick, and then
Just,
we'll
you
go right
want
to
to,
you.
You're getting a
before,
lot of high-level cover for this one, okay.
no, not at all.
Appreciate it.
Quite the contrary. For this question in particular, the comptroller just asked, my question is about that writ large, about all of these outstanding bills, because to me it's unacceptable. Why isn't there a automatic policy that anybody that doesn't pay their bills, why has it not been going to the law department?
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
So I think the best way to phrase it is where we want to be. I can't give an adequate explanation. I can find in records why at times, the law department accepted certain cases, didn't, where staffing was down in either place. I can find kind of records of that, but the decision of what's the cadence should we do it on, what's appropriate, what's most effective as a city, what bill type do we actually get collections from, I do not have that answer, and that's what these corrective actions are meant to address.
Mayor's going to follow up, and then Councilor, you want to jump back in there as well?
Just a follow-up, Deputy. So I know you've been here a long time, so that's why I'm asking this question. So am I to gather from what you're saying is that there has never been a policy in the Department of Finance to do what I just asked?
I found legacy policies from 1989
But that's the
that
last
do not
one.
speak to the total, yes, sir.
Okay.
And that is part of the reason that we were eager to have this audit. There are multiple moving pieces to this that we needed that deep dive, and we acknowledge that. And I would say, I think there are, this is the other piece and goes to the citywide communication. There are people in DOT and in law that are working extremely hard on conduits, but the person who is billing in revenue collections is not aware of those efforts at their level. There is not that communication piece. Department of Finance is acknowledging we should set that guidance, that policy, and we should help lead that discussion wherever appropriate, because it is not acceptable not to have that framework in place so that it lasts longer than all of us here.
Comptroller, is that adequate, or do you
Oh,
want to finish that clarifying question?
I'm waiting to see if Michael's trying to
Thank you.
finish answering it, too.
I just wanted to add just a little bit more context because this is such an important question. What we found is the further back you go, the less information we had on what bills were outstanding. If you go back to the 2010s before Workday, we, as a city at a high level, didn't have a good way of knowing what was out there. And so the unfortunate answer is that, yes, it's always been this way. The good news is there's been a lot of steps done thus far already to start fixing it. The first was getting onto a single citywide system of record that lets us even look this up, lets us actually see what's outstanding. Another really important step was the creation of a corporate compliance unit that works with both the agency partners responsible for the billing directly with the law department and with the largest corporate entities out there to go after everything kind of as we become aware of it. That's not the complete solution, but that's a start. And we've recovered millions of dollars per year since we've launched this corporate compliance unit. Now, that may be a sign that there's more out there, and a single dollar lost is not appropriate to us. But this has been getting steadily kind of nipped away from the edges for the last few years. What's different now is now we have the systems, now we have the staffing, and we're putting together those processes over the past year, which is why so many of these due dates are so near in the future, so that we can get to that end state of anything that's owed to the city will automatically be billed, be collected, and get referred to the law department as needed.
I'm going to let the comptroller finish this thread. I think the mayor also wants to jump in, and then I got several questions as well.
Yeah, I think you have answered the question. I'm going to make sure I think that the question I was asking was, why is there a policy of these not going to law when the reality is there isn't a policy that they should?
That's exactly right, sir. There is not a policy of non-referral.
Yeah,
There is
it's
simply
a lack of policy.
comprehensive policy.
Okay.
And that's what we're fixing right now.
And then the other, and this I think technically might be more for the city solicitor than for finance, is just so that I understand, when the reference was made to charges that happened far enough in the past that by the time we start to pursue it, we've passed the 3-year statute of limitations. In a situation where the initial bill or the initial service that we're trying to collect for is more than 3 years old, we can't go after the initial charge. Are we still able to go after late fees or penalties for the time since then?
Well,
Solicitor Thompson.
So, I'm sorry, Mr. President.
You're
So it depends on if it's existing, right? If it's an existing harm, then I can argue past that statute of limitations, right? So it depends on what it is. If it's recurring, right, I would have to look at the nature of it. But I'm more interested in, to your point, Mr. Comptroller, of getting it, right? The sooner we get it, the sooner we can assess it. And if there's a automated system, whereas we are notified, to Mr. Auditor's point, we don't want to do that too early, but usually after a 90-day period, that's when we trigger. I know with DHCD and citations, when we were talking about the out-of-state, the New York owners were looking at those citations, and we were able to start going after them and issuing that. So we don't want it to be, of course, too early if they are just responding to the default, and some people may do that, but we definitely don't want to be 2 years, 3 years, and we're bumping up on a statute of limitations. And some of them may not have a 3-year statute of limitations. It just depends on what we're looking at. So if we just have an automated system for us to get there and get notified, it gives the law department an opportunity to do it. So if we have that existing, I would love just to tap into it, right? If we have it for Workday, I would love to develop one for with blockchain. If we don't, but either way, I just want to get the information and give us an opportunity to utilize the systems within the law department to collect for the city.
Absolutely. And I'll just add that everything the Department of Finance does is with consultation from the law department. And what we need here is exactly, Madam Solicitor, is what you're describing, which is something that gets this in front of you and your experts so that the correct determinations can be made in real time.
Yeah, and I just want to put this in simple terms, which is if there's a bill that I owe to, let's say, a store, it is a pretty high likelihood that a collections agency, if I do not pay that bill, will come after me and start hounding me to pay my bill. At some point, if I continue to not pay my bill, they will presumably get law enforcement involved, as I have committed theft by not paying my bill. In this instance, what we are describing is a pattern or a culture of having, we don't know how many, but a large amount of people or business entities not pay their bill, and then we are not automatically referring it to, I don't want to mix up terms, but our law department, which would effectively act as the law enforcement arm of the city in order to recoup the costs. Is that accurate?
Mr. President, I think that that's fair. I think that what you're describing is reasonable for any organization to function, and for reasons that unfortunately predate all of us, that has not been the practice in Baltimore. We are changing that, and this isn't as of today, this is as of several years ago when we started putting the systems in place and the procedures in place to catch more and more of these cases until their ultimate full elimination, which at this point we are getting very close to. These are not a huge proportion of the city's overall revenue, and we'll try to get you those numbers soon on exactly what this represents as a share. But any dollar is a dollar too much, and we will have an ultimate complete solution that does not leave anything out later this year.
Yeah, I have a number of follow-ups, but we're here now. And so whatever happened in the past, lack of a system, can no longer be an excuse for why we're not building resilient systems today, / yesterday, / the many years that you all have served as our finance department. I'm going to go to the mayor, and then I have a series of questions.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Michael, I'm actually going to go right back to what the council president was talking about. Mr. President, I think you hit the nail on the head. We know typically it's not law enforcement. It will go on your credit. A credit agency will be coming after you. But I think, Michael, I'm just going to go back to this point because I think it's critically important. We do that every single time someone doesn't pay a traffic camera. And somebody in the Department of Finance is going to explain to me in a way that satisfies me today why in the hell we weren't doing that for people who owe us hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. That makes no sense. And it shouldn't take, someone has to explain to me why it takes the auditor and working with the audit department to note that the finance department isn't collecting bills when it's literally their job is to count the money. I don't need someone else to tell me how to do my job. My job is to be the person that executes the laws of Baltimore City. I don't need to ask someone else to help me do that. Someone has to explain to me how we needed that, why do we have these policies, and when will the first bills go out to these people, and when will the first negligent folks be referred to the law department?
Mr. Mayor, do you want that?
I want to answer it right now.
Yeah, yes, sir. The first part of that answer is the when is several years ago. That it's not today, it is yesterday. We have been engaging the law department to go after these negligent bills as we find them. What we're focused on now is getting to every single last dollar. The partnership with the Department of Audits was to see if we're moving on the right direction. The audits are inherently backwards facing so that we could compare where we were 3 years ago and 2 years ago to where we are now and make sure that we are in agreement with independent experts that we are doing everything we can possibly be doing. The systems needed to be built, they got built. The people needed to be hired, they got hired. We needed to start going after delinquent accounts. We have started going after them. The issue here is just finishing, and that is why this is an ongoing piece of work that will be completed later this year. Mr. Mayor, board members, you are right to be frustrated. I'm frustrated too, and I think that we can finish this work with speed and focus. There was just a lot to do, and the good news is so much of it has been done already, but you have my commitment that we will finish the work this year.
Just a couple follow-ups real quickly, Mr. President. Michael, how many have we sent to the law department and what has been recouped so far? And also, how did we determine what was the rationale for which ones we went after first?
On what's been recouped, it's we're about $4 million a year. Let me just quickly check with staff.
You got to come up, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dan Goldberg with the Corporate Compliance Department. Essentially, what we do is we take a look at the self-reporting taxes sector, and that includes the vast majority of the corporate taxes that the city collects. So, hotel, parking, telecom. We have taken a look at the conduits industry as well. And so we take a look to see whether there are inconsistencies out there, where we are missing collections or filings, do an analysis of that, and then try to go after those taxes that are liable to the city. And a lot of our work is in conjunction with the law department and the great personnel they have there. We have probably collected over the last 3 years upwards of about $20 million of taxes that we currently weren't even considering is not the right word, but essentially we were not as focused on. In the last year, probably about 4.5. Obviously, one of the key things, as you know, sir, is once you bring someone into compliance, they tend to stay in compliance. And once you take your eye off the ball, it's not just them, but other entities in the same sector. If they see their competitors are not compliant, not paying taxes, they probably have more incentive to do the same. I'm happy to dig in deeper. I apologize I wasn't, aware that I was going to be testifying or here in front of the board today, but I'm happy to answer any questions or, have a secondary discussion at a later time.
I'm just going to ask, I'm just going to ask, Mr. President, that, that finance actually presents for the board at a future meeting for us, or send to the board members in memo fashion all the outstanding, so that we know what the actual outstanding number is versus the collection numbers that we're hearing today. And then I'm done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given how extensive the challenges appear to be with the management of accounts receivable, where are you starting? I heard how you're responding to the findings, but what is the most urgent? The mayor asked about the total dollars. I'm going to ask that again at the end of this line of questioning. But where are we starting, and by what date do you expect to have implemented all of the auditor's recommendations?
So, starting with, I think, staffing and policy. Staffing, acknowledging that our AR, we are building that up, and by the end of this month, should have an additional hire. And then we have already built up the revenue collections and reallocating staff portfolio on the AR and the BAP side. But policy, and when I say policy, I don't just mean like the thing on the paper, but I mean the communicating the policy, reviewing the policy, ensuring that there is compliance, kind of all of those pieces. And I think those are two critically important areas. You heard me say before, we have most of our policy deadlines are at the end of this month. I've already seen drafts of the majority of them. We will meet that deadline, but we have talked with the team about the need for that. That policy is not set. It is not set in concrete. We should not have the same policy next year, because what we hope to do at the 90-day look-back period is look back, evaluate what is working and what is not, and revise. We are doing that because we believe it is critically important to take that step and put something in place because it is so critical, as opposed to a longer process that would be preferable, frankly, for policy and SOP development. A longer period of 6 months would be ideal, but that is not that is not how we are approaching it. We are approaching it, we need something today, like this month, and then we will proceed to kind of iterate on that.
So,
And in terms of all of the deadlines, the longer deadlines, and I'm kind of looking back at my paper, are August of 2027, but that's for the technology piece, right? The moving all the non-lienable bills into the Workday system is the longest range milestone.
okay. I'd really like to see within the next 60 days many of these findings implemented as quickly as possible. Is implementing all of these changes within the system going to require more staff? We are heading into budget season. This is critically important. I want to understand, as the presiding officer of the legislative branch, the fiscal position of finance and whether moving all of these recommendations forward is going to require you all to staff up further.
We will continually evaluate, noting that where we are at in the budget process, like any agency, we follow the budget process, and it would be very difficult at this time to change. But we also anticipate that establishing the process as it should be will better inform what we need in terms of staffing. And by that, I mean Similar to the work that we did in the Bureau of Procurement, we hired to the positions we had, we planned kind of what we wanted to do and what the process should look like, and then we evaluated, is this staffing enough? But we wanted to get the process set up to understand and inform our staffing, and I see the director. So.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add that where we were on staffing a year ago or 2 years ago, even 6 months ago, is different than we are on staffing today. So the answer right now is we do believe we have the staff that we need. This is very new, and we need time to make sure that we're not missing anything, so I certainly don't want to say something final and ultimate for the forever future, but right now, we are at the highest staffing level that we've been in many years, and we believe at this time that that is the people we need.
Regarding the conduit invoices, can you clarify what entities owe the city money and whether it can still be collected? And to be clear, does BG&E owe any outstanding balance related to the conduit system?
Dan Goldberg again. As relates to BGE, we're not aware of any outstanding invoices that haven't been paid, and that will include the maintenance fee that they are paying to the city through the invoicing process. The other invoices, I think, that were referred here, the other entities that are operating within the conduit system. I think, Mr. President, one of your questions was, if it goes past the statute of limitations, what's the possible recourses that we have against those entities? Yeah. The city owns the conduit system. The city dictates who's in the conduit system. So we've had instances, and I did an analysis, I want to say about 3 to 4 years ago, about the entities that are in the conduit system. We had some entities that even went back 15 years in the conduit system, and there were some discrepancies in the payment. So even past the statute of limitations, as we dictate and have who those entities are in the conduit system, there is an incentive for them to make good on those past payments of what is due and owed to the city. And I can talk offline about some of the discussions that we've had with those entities, but we have collected, in some instances, past that 3-year statute of limitations on those entities that want to remain and have active status in the conduit system.
Yeah. I don't know if this is intentional, but it feels a little vague. When you're talking about those entities, can you enumerate what entities you're talking about?
Sure. I mean, BGE obviously is the largest distributor, the distributor of energy, but we have telecoms that operate in the conduit system. We have, Vicinity and other entities that are in the conduit system. So BGE is 75, 80% in the conduit system, but there's still another, 20%, 25% of other entities that are in the conduit system here. And so those entities as well have lease agreements. Those entities have to make payments to the city, and those payments go into the maintenance and upkeep of the conduit system.
Yeah, understood. Look, if a resident does not pay their BGE bill, I know darn well BGE is going to figure out a way to collect. We should be similarly ruthless when it comes to BGE or any of those other telecom, any of the entities that are in our conduit. They are an exceedingly wealthy company that has a partnership. I know there's going to be discussion coming up on this board about whether to renew the contract, the deal with BGE in our conduit, but at very minimum, we should collect on our bills with them. And we should be crystal clear. This should not be vague. This should not be confusing as to whether we are collecting the full value from BGE and any of the other entities that are within our conduit.
I agree with you. And again, to our knowledge, we don't have any outstanding bills that BG hasn't paid for its occupancy in the conduit system. But happy to have another discussion with you about the conduit bills as well at a later date.
Happy to. I'm also concerned to hear, thank you, Dan. I'm also concerned to hear that we aren't billing pilots correctly or ensuring that invoices reflect contractual agreements. How quickly can those challenges be corrected to ensure that the right invoices are sent every month?
So several years back, we instituted kind of the cataloging of the pilots. So the first step was identifying which pilots exist and should be billed. They are at times complex in terms of the documentation that is required from the property owner and whether they provide that, and then the analyzing. We are looking at that for the beginning of July.
Okay. I would say as soon as possible. I think 6 weeks feels, I guess we're midway through May. I would say that would be one that 6 weeks should be able to do it. The single audit that we received earlier this year cited some of the problems in our wastewater and water accounting, which impacted our ability to maintain appropriate revenue for our debt service ratio obligations. We've started to have that conversation with the Department of Public Works. We had several problems years ago when we discovered that we had not been appropriately billing luxury condo buildings and commercial establishments. Why should the public believe that we have an appropriate sense of urgency to fix this problem when it seems to have continued for years without any material changes?
I would actually encourage both the public and this board to maintain vigilance and concern. I think that's appropriate. I would not speak differently. What I would offer as a measure of confidence is our continued work towards transparency and our work towards process improvement. So we've seen that in kind of segments of finance in the services and responsibilities that we have. We saw that movement in procurement, where we reduced outstanding backlogs of procurement, where we moved to do things more timely and more consistently, and where we built up the team. We saw that in grants management towards the resolution of some single audit findings, towards the establishment of citywide guidance and committees and a functioning structure that agencies can turn to that guides their work with grants management. And then now we saw it with the Bureau of Accounting and Payroll Services in our movement to a timely act for a year-end close process that is defined and communicated and followed up on. And so in that same light, we are working with accounts receivable to do that same process improvement. And I would encourage and accept that we should be held accountable for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think accountability is the right word. We are in a moment where public faith in institutions, particularly government, is at an all-time low. We are not in a situation where there is a lot of grace for mistakes, for billing mistakes, in the same way that we often don't have much grace for other entities or people that make mistakes. And so this is mission critical, not just to the functioning of finance, but really to the functioning of our city government. It is very challenging to ask people to pay their bills on time, and whether it's their utility bills, whether it's their water bills, whether it's their taxes, to do that, but not have systems in place so that we know we are collecting. Because as I said before, if we don't recoup someone's bill, someone else is paying for it. It is not free money. There is a limited pool of our tax base. And so what we're simply doing is shifting the burden of somebody's bill or some entity's bill onto somebody else. And that is extremely concerning to me as president of the city council, and I would suggest to this board as well. I'm going to ask the same question the mayor suggested. I asked the auditor earlier, but what I really want to know here is how much money has the city lost or not recouped because of our inability to manage these processes?
We will come back to you very quickly with a full accounting for that question. And just to, again, put the broader context on this, this is an area where we have been materially improving. To the deputy's points, we have finished a lot of our transformative processes in finance in other areas. This one is still moving, but compared to where we were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there has been significant material change which the auditor's report reflects and which we will account for you when we come back to you with what's outstanding. So while it is, like I said, important to note that we will get to the finish line and we will get there soon, we will also show you exactly where we are right now with what's outstanding.
I appreciate that. It is not moving fast enough. The improvements need to be done yesterday, not in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. The city is relying on its finance department to provide an accurate accounting of the dollars that we receive and the dollars that we are owed so that we can pay our sanitation workers to pick up the trash and pay our firefighters to put out fires and pay our rec and park director to build great rec centers. Everything that we do as a city is dependent on having an accurate and appropriate accounting of the dollars that come in and the dollars that come out. And so again, it is extremely disturbing to learn through this audit that there are many dollars, we do not know how much as of yet, that are not coming in, that are not being collected in order to pay for city services. What I will say is this is an issue that the city council is going to be investigating as well. I will be referring this to one of my chairs of a committee because we cannot be in a situation where we don't know. And frankly, at a Board of Estimates meeting where I would assume you all would think this question would come up, like how much money is the city owed? I think it's unacceptable to not have that answer today. And so my request, director, deputy director, is within the next 48 hours, I would like to see the sum total of how much is owed and the immediate plan to recoup that money.
Yes, sir. My true apologies for not having the answer for you this morning. We will have that answer for you in 48 hours. Part of what we've been able to do over the last several years is put the systems in place that allow us to do that. That's the first step, and we will have that accounting for you within 48 hours.
Thank you, Director Mostyn. I'm going to go to the comptroller.
Thank you, Mr. President. So actually, I came back up here with the intention of suggesting that finance come back in like mid-July, right before your expected go live with the August 1 stuff, to give us an update. And then you said, like, you wanted to see a lot of this done in 60 days, and I'm like, perfect. But then you said you wanted them to come back and tell you that in 6 weeks. And I just wanted to check back in and be like, well, 6 weeks is going to be like the end of June, and that's budget season. And I was going to suggest, like, can we have them come back with a really comprehensive report in 60 days?
I mean, that's really a question for you all, but I would suggest that having a comprehensive report to address what are pressing findings should be done in 60 days. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my take on it.
Their answer is yes, Mr. President.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
All good?
All good?
Okay. Other board questions? Seeing, hearing none. This item is noted. The next item on the non-routine agenda is also from the Department of Audits under SB 26-11445 from the Department of Audits. This is a request to note the biennial performance audit follow-up on the Baltimore Police Department findings included in the previous audit report for fiscal years 2025 and 2026 through April 2026. On behalf of Audits, we have City Auditor Josh Pash. Mr. Pash, the floor is yours again.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, honorable board members. My name is Josh Pash. I'm the city auditor, and I'm here to present the biennial performance audit for Department of Police regarding towing, and I'm pretty sure that this will go a lot quicker than the last one. So I want to thank our audit team and the police department for all of their work and assistance on this audit. Thank you very much. Next slide. So I'll go over our audit objectives, and by the way, I think we're up to 3 or 4 in a row of PowerPoint going up, so we're going to audit objectives and scope, our results, our audit methodology, and implementation status of the prior findings. Next slide. The prior audit objective was to evaluate the police department's effectiveness of the towing process. We looked at fiscal years 25 and 26 through April of 26 to have the most current information. Next slide. We followed up on 3 findings, 2 regarding the police department and 1 for the Department of Transportation, as they are both involved in the towing process. One from the police department was fully implemented. One from the Department of Transportation was partially implemented, and 1 recommendation for the police department, we will follow up again in our next audit. They had implemented their controls late in the game, and so we need to come back to see the effectiveness of those. Next slide. Okay, audit methodology. So we reviewed the updated notification letters and vehicle retrieval service notices, determined that all key items are contained, basically looking for they having clear instructions on how the owner or related party can retrieve their vehicle. For example, documentation needed to retrieve their vehicle. We also verified that the notification letter and the vehicle retrieval service notice was available in multiple languages to meet the makeup of the city. Next slide. Okay, we, along those lines, we assessed, accessed the Department of Transportation towing website and verified that the website is available in multiple languages. We called the towing customer service number on both the DOT website and the VRS and verified that there are language interpreter systems available. We selected 30 vehicles from the auction list to confirm that that we have documentation, that DOT has documentation, that they attempted to contact the owners of the vehicle before they went to auction. Next slide. We selected 30 samples of released vehicles from April to March to confirm that the DOT had documentation to support that that when the person came in to collect their vehicle, that it was appropriately released to the right person. We performed an on-site walkthrough of the administration building at the impound lot to confirm that it's in operation. The previous audit, they were not in operation, they were doing construction, and they had basically a trailer that they're working out of. When we did the previous audit, there was not clear directions on how to get to the place to redeem your vehicle, and we observed that signage to point you to the right place once you get to the impound lot was there, and then also we recommended that there would be clear instructions on what ownership documentation would be needed, and that would be displayed. So we verified that. And then we also verified that there was a language interpreter or ability at the administration building. We conducted a walkthrough of the police department's reconciliation of the invoices and towing bill processes to make sure, to see how they verified that bills received were accurate and true. And then we also selected invoices to validate that those processes were working effectively, basically controls to make sure that the bills we were paying were for services rendered. Next slide. Okay, so our first finding was BPD had a contract with Medallion Towing to provide towing services. The contract had a requirement that they would provide, they would have towing services at the location of the request within 20 minutes. At that time, that 20-minute, I guess, rule was relaxed during COVID, and it was still relaxed at the time of our audit, and that we also noted that they were not tracking compliance with that 20-minute contract requirement. So they had implemented the Autoris software, which was used by their officers and communication dispatchers. They did that in June of '25. We noted that they are in the process of procuring another Medallion towing contract, and in part of that arrangement, that Medallion will also be using the Autoris system so that they would have the ability to do this tracking. It had not been fully implemented, and as such, we will be following up on this in our next audit. They had done a pilot program for 2 districts. However, we wanted to see the whole picture. Next slide. Okay. So our second finding is related to the police department's validation and confirmation that the towing invoices they received are accurate. Actually, in our first audit, we did note that they have a process where the towing unit will reconcile the invoices with the individual towing bills to validate the charges, that they submit those validated invoices and the towing bills to BPD Fiscal, and that Fiscal conducts a secondary review before it goes into Workday. All of that was what we were looking for. The finding was because when we looked for documentation to support prior bills, they did not have that available. Record retention also to make sure that the process was happening consistently. And when we did our follow-up, that was implemented. They do have controls and evidence that that is working consistently for verifying that the towing bills should be paid. Next slide. Okay, so our third finding is for DOT. This was regarding the notification letters, and we found out that the documentation support that the notification letters were sent out, they were not able to locate a good number of them. We also noted that the notification letters were not very clear when sent to owners, and we also noted that they were only available in English. And then we also noted that the location of vehicles in the DOT system and the lot could use some improvement. So I want to point out that they have implemented all but one of them. So the towing website notification letters has been updated with other languages and more information. There's multiple languages are available on their website. The language interpreter system is up and running. And then the support that they had sent out the notification letters, they do have that documentation. And so the reason it's partially implemented was for the physical inventory count. The last one was conducted in July of 2025. Their policy is that it should be conducted semi-annually, so they did not conduct the last 2. Basically, a physical inventory is making sure that the vehicles that are recorded in their system on the lot are actually on the lot. And so it is important to have this regularly to keep track of their inventory for multiple reasons. Next slide. DOT asked us to include this in the report, so I'll just read it real quickly. Much of the causation of the system inaccuracies for the vehicle information in the system is a result of unidentifiable, oh my gosh, I should not have read this, unidentifiable vehicles that have remained stored or displaced on the lot for long periods of time. And then they've coordinated with the law department to be able to remove these unidentifiable vehicles from the lot, allowing more space, and also to cleaning up their physical inventory. And these unidentifiable vehicles are those vehicles that, after multiple attempts to locate the VIN, vehicle identification number, it's still not found. They have a VIN inspector. They also have a police officer from the Regional Auto Theft Task Force, and then sometimes from the National Insurance Claims Bureau, who assist in this search for the VIN. And if it is found, not found, the vehicle is identified as unidentifiable, and they are working to remove those from the lots. And I will take any questions.
Questions from the board? Again, thank you for your diligence in following up on these prior recommendations. Let me ask just one question. Did you have a chance to review the BPD pilots that are being implemented regarding the dispatch of the towing companies? Are they effective and ready to be rolled out department-wide?
So those two districts had not fully rolled out the Altura system when it comes to monitoring those. They had used it for other uses for the Altura system that were outside the scope. So we do not look at those because it wasn't, what had been rolled out wasn't relative to the audit. And then also the coordination with the Medallion Towing and having them use the Altura system from their end, which really gives the full data piece, had not been implemented.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions for the auditor. Thank you, Mr. Pash, for your work on this. We will now turn to BPD. On behalf of the Police Department, we have Deputy Chief of Fiscal and Personnel Services, Andrew Smulyan. Deputy Chief Smulyan, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the board. With me is my colleague, Director Paula Williams, who is the Chief of Fiscal Services for the BPD. I don't have much to add, just piggyback to what the city auditor gave in his update with respect to finding number one, the monitoring and enforcement of the 20-minute arrival standard of tow trucks from the time of dispatch. As he mentioned, we have implemented the Altura software, although we're still rolling it out department-wide. So we are able to track and monitor tow trucks and their arrival times in real time. However, the monitoring and tracking is only one piece of it. The other component is the enforcement of that standard. And so we've been, I think that the sort of the greatest impediment is that we have today 5 medallion towers, and I think historically we had more. I believe we had between 7 and 9, perhaps a decade ago. So we need to make several changes and policy process changes. But one of the biggest things we need is, and the auditor alluded to it, is a new towing contract, which I'm happy to say I think we're sort of near the end zone in releasing that. So we'll be back to the board hopefully in the coming months, and we can have a more robust conversation about this new contract. But we are
Just real
very close
quick on that, is it going to be competitively bid? What's
where we are at now is that so what we're not handing it out to we're not putting it out for bid, which is how it was before, and the lowest bidder would get it. What we are doing is the plan is to set a rate, and anybody who meets the standards for that towing contract, who's willing to set that rate, is eligible to go and tow for us as long as they meet a minimum level of threshold standards.
okay? Keep going.
Okay. So once we do that, our hope is not only to be able to better meet that 20-minute standard, but also perhaps to even exceed it, so the officers can go along and do what they need to do for the rest of their day, and the motorists can do what they need to do. With that said, let's go on to the next finding for finding 2. With respect to our reconciliation of invoices and our records retention, as the auditor mentioned, we have implemented their recommendations. We've added an accountant to the process, so we have sort of kind of a dual reconciliation process from the unit to the to fiscal. And then moving forward, what we will be doing is using the Altura system as a system of record to reconcile with the supporting documentation. And with that, I will take any questions that the board may have.
questions for BPD? Is DOT in the house? Okay. The audit that indicates that you're working, if you don't mind, come on up. Thank you, Madam Director. The audit indicates that you're working with the law department to speed the removal of vehicles designated to be scrapped. Can you provide any metrics regarding the impound lot? How many vehicles are there? How many are designated for scrapping? And on average, how long do vehicles remain in impound? Also, how long does a vehicle have to be abandoned before it is considered for disposal?
Well, I got, because my question is similar, I just want to add on to your question.
Mr. Mayor, you want to add on?
So thank you, Mr. President, and Director McBeth knows that the cars in the back of the Pulaski lot are a big discussion in any conversation with the mayor. I think what I would say to Director McBeth, to add on to what the council president says, if you could talk about like the conditions of some of the vehicles and roughly how long they've been there, but also what factors come into play with what the auditor said in the finding of not even being able to identify technically what the vehicle is or who it belongs to.
Right. Good morning. Director Veronica McBeth for Baltimore City DOT. I have my colleague here, Tiffany Owens, who will also be giving some more nuanced details to what's happening in tow yards. But generally speaking, a lot of the cars that are there are dilapidated to the point that sometimes it's even impossible to see VIN numbers on these vehicles. Lots of vehicles have had consistent outreach to owners to no avail for cars to be picked up, and subsequently, if they are in any kind of form to be auctioned off, they are done so. Otherwise, they are scrapped. So those are some of the methodologies that are happening within the tow yard. Separate of this ask, before I turn it over to Tiffany, one of the notes that came up in the audit findings was about us taking a look at the inventory status within the tow yard. And one of the things was that we had an implementation of a new auctioneer software, so we had to postpone our inventory process, but subsequently did that inventory on May 3rd. So that's been done, and we've had no problems since then, and we don't see any issues with that in the foreseeable future. Tiffany, I will turn it over to you to provide some more details.
Good morning, everyone. Tiffany Owens, Deputy Chief of the Towing Division. So we believe that we have around 200 vehicles that are on our lot that are burned or unidentifiable. When working with the new auctioneers, we have come up with a plan for them to remove all of those vehicles in bulk for us. So that's the process we're working on with them at this point.
Okay. So let me just, for both agencies, do you plan any other steps to continue to improve the management of the towing program? If so, what are those steps? I will just say, I know this is an interest of several of my colleagues, this is of interest to the mayor. The council passed a bill not too long ago to create an Office of Consumer Protection that has significant interest in our towing practices. Just curious sort of where we're going.
Is there a particular aspect that you were, or just in general?
Just in general. There is clearly, do we need this entire tow lot? How are we thinking about the space, and are there practices that we're going to be changing?
I'll sit there and say whether we need the tow lot or not is probably a question way above being. I think that's a policy question that I think that you know, we as a city need to answer. I will say that we are the only one of 2 jurisdictions in this entire state that I think has an impound lot of this kind of structure, to my knowledge anyway. But with respect to your general question, we are trying to think about this program holistically and change it from the way that we've been doing it, which is, it used to be that each medallion tower had sort of a geographic kind of monopoly, and that has eroded over time, but it's still sort of kind of set in structurally, and it is codified. And so the way that we're thinking about it, at least from the terms of accident tows, is that, we want to be more inclusive, we want to be more expansive, we want anybody who's able to get there as quickly as possible to do it, because this is an operational issue for us. But there's a lot of things that we have to change. There are, and you mentioned one of, several of your colleagues. We've been having discussions with one of them. I think there's some changes to the code that need to happen. But so I don't want to get too far ahead of that. But there's other things that we need to do, like we need to pay our vendors probably in a more timely manner. I mean, these are small businesses, and they're often floated on money that they're owed for probably longer than most small businesses can sustain. And so that's something we need to do internally, and we're working on that as well, and we hope that the software will help us. So I think that there's a lot of changes from the way that this has been done historically. I think it's one of the reasons why it's taken so long, and for us to kind of wrap our heads around what are a lot of times, certainly process changes, but market forces, and that's what we're trying to get at. Please.
Again, I'm Paula Williams, Director of Fiscal Services. And again, everything that has been said is when we get everything inside a system, it makes it more transparent. So my hope is that hopefully by the end of the year, once all of the officers, are up and using the Atura platform and the vendors are using the Atura platform, that data is put inside of a system where we can really, make an analysis. Are our efforts being addressed timely? I believe having the information inside the system, it makes the officers the primary person. They're there, they're able to see the vehicle, they're able to get and ensure that the VIN numbers are there, they're able to identify owners, so we're using the Atura system. The officers, again, will be the primary source, and the platform, again, it is the source of record, it's the system of record. So again, once we get all of these pieces in and we get Atura configured, where we can actually pull that information, find out who the officers are, is it, primary tows that are being done in a specific region or location. And again, it also gives, equal opportunity for the towers to respond and actually identifying where those tows are actually going. So again, I think putting the information inside the system, again, it allows us to be able to see and to make, real decisions on our business processes alone. So that's what
Understood.
And
Director?
Yeah, so one other component I would just also close that part out with is that we've been managing a contract outside of our agency, which is the contract that BPD uses. So with this new contract system and mechanism, they will be managing their own contract, which would allow them better autonomy to deal with how they dispatch their services for police-related matters versus the type of issues that we deal with, specifically for towing.
Gotcha. Okay. Mr. Mayor, you want to put something on the record?
Just, Mr. President, and Deputy Chief Smullian brought up, I think that we just have to be reminded that partly we are here cleaning up, and BPD has done a great job of cleaning up the towing issues and all of those things, because there was this old practice that we had led to a big corruption scandal within BPD with towing. So I want to just appreciate for BPD for all their work and DOT for supporting to get this in a much better place.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. Hearing no other questions, this item is noted. Thank you. All right. The next item on the non-routine agenda is from the Department of Public Works under SB 2611206. This is a request to note an emergency procurement agreement with L/B Water Service, Inc. On behalf of the procurement and DPW, we have Chief of Procurement Adam Manny. No, we do not. You, sir, are not Adam Manny.
He's many things, but he is not adamant.
Mr. Allen, please introduce yourself
Somebody
and
bring
proceed.
a milk crate to put the microphone on.
So, good morning, Honorable Board, Mr. Council President, Mr. Mayor, Madam Solicitor, Mr. Comptroller, and Mr. Director. It's been a long morning, but it's great to see each and every one of you. All right, so for this item, we do have a slight presentation.
name and
My name is
job.
Alan Robinson. I am the Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. I am here to talk about SB 2611206, which was the emergency procurement, and we're actually here noting this procurement with LB Water Service. We can go ahead to the next slide. Essentially, in this, we are noting that under this agreement that there was a request for water meters for both residential and commercial locations. And this was to cover a gap period. We were in the process of working on a formal solicitation. We had put it out for bid. The solicitations had come in, and it took a little while for us to identify and to award. So to cover that gap, and to address the issues that we were having at the time, because if you remember, last winter was almost as bad as this winter. And so we had quite a few meters, residential locations where the meters malfunctioned due to the cold weather, and we needed these meters in stock to make sure that we did not have our residents or businesses out of water. And so with that, we put this emergency order in place for covering a gap period of February of 2025 through August of 2025 for the amount of $1,780,929.72. If we take a look at the next slide, it breaks down what our actual long-term plan was. As I stated, we actually had a solicitation, a request for quotes that was out. We opened it in October 2024. It was actually closed in February 2025. But because we did not actually award this contract until June of 2025, we required this emergency procurement to make sure that we had the adequate number of meters in stock to address those concerns. As I stated, that that contract was awarded in June of 2025 for the amount of $16,491,169. Excuse me. It was for a term of 1 year with 3 one-year renewal options. So we just wanted to make sure that we noted this emergency procurement that occurred last year and put it before the board for approval.
To note.
Yes, to note.
Indeed. Any questions? Mr. Garbarg, you've been awfully quiet.
No question.
Okay. All right. Hearing and seeing none, this item is noted by the board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. As there is no more business before the board, we will now adjourn this meeting. The next regular meeting of the Board of Estimates will occur on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026 at 9 a.m. I thank everyone for participating and tuning in.
You're doing some.
Hi, TV25, we are ready to go. Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for getting a slightly late start opening our bids today, because our Board of Estimates meeting ran long, and we do both of those things. So this is the Board of Estimates bid opening for May 20th, 2026. We have quite a few addenda to announce this morning. First, for procurement, RFQ 000811, Veterinary Police Canine Services, very important. This bid is going to be opened on May 20th, 2026. For Recreation and Parks, RP 22805, Gwynns Falls Campground Restoration and Improvements. This bid will be opened on May 20th, 2026. For Public Works, WC 1453, repaving utility cuts and sidewalk restoration at various locations. This bid will now be opened on May 20th, 2026. For Transportation, TR 26012, resurfacing highways at various locations northeast Sector 1. This bid will now be opened on Oh, I'm reading the wrong dates. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm reading the current due date instead of the new due date.
It's
Sorry
okay,
about that.
Madam Burgundy.
Let me start over again. Sorry, everybody. For procurement, RFQ 000811 Veterinary Police Canine Services. This bid was going to be opened on May 20th. It will now be opened on June 3rd, 2026. Recreation and Parks, RP 22805 Gwynns Falls Campground Restoration and Improvements was going to be opened on 5/20 and will now be opened on June 3rd, 2026. And Public Works WC 1453 repaving utility cuts and sidewalk restoration at various locations was being opened today, 5/20, but will now be opened on June 3rd, 2026. And I'd like to get a clarification, if anyone can give it to me, for the transportation items. I thought these were being delayed for 2 meetings for a month. Because right now I have the new opening date is June 3rd. Can you? Okay. And that's what the addenda says? You saw June 3rd on the addenda? Okay, I'm going to check it really fast. Bear with us, we're just confirming so we know we are giving the right date for this change. They're June 17th. Okay, so, well, it's usually things just move to the next one, but they are, I thought I was told it was a month out. So, hang on just a second. Okay, so let me start. There are 4 transportation items that are being moved, and I'm going to give the correct date and change it as I go in our paperwork. The transportation TR26012, resurfacing highways at various locations northeast, Sector 1, was due today, but is now going to be, will now be due on June 17th. Is due and will be opened on June 17th, 2026. Transportation TR26013, resurfacing highways at various locations northwest Sector 2. This bid will now be opened on June 17th, 2026. Transportation TR26014, resurfacing highways at various locations southwest, Sector 3. This bid will now be opened on June 17th. And Transportation TR26015, resurfacing highways at various locations southeast, Sector 4. This bid will now be opened on June 17th. And that is the conclusion of our addenda. Those will all be posted along with the bid results today. And our first bid to be open today is for Public Works, SC1047R, Pipeline Assessment and Maintenance Citywide.
All right, good morning, Madam Clerk. We've received one bid for SC 1047R. It's from Mobile Dredging and Video Pipe Incorporated. I'm going to hand you the duplicate, and I have one original. Thanks, Sean.
And one duplicate. No flash drive.
No flash drive, that's
Yes,
correct.
a bid bond.
Let me locate the bond.
Bid bond?
Just hate jumping to the end of a good story.
It did say there's supposed to be one, right? Oh, I think I, oh, please. Well, I don't know how to explain what page this is on, but I have one. I have a copy.
Is it in the
184?
Yeah, I understand why you don't know how to explain that.
Okay, I have a bond, signed bid bond. And I'm gonna read the total off of a page.
Yeah, I don't see page numbers.
In the
but
middle?
I see what you're saying, and I think I see the number. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. $12,315,710.40.
That number was 12,15,710.00.
Nope.
Nope.
40 cents.
Oh,
40.
sorry. Oh, couldn't see that. The binder clip was in the way. Pardon me. Let me read that again. That was $12,315,710.40.
Yes, ma'am.
And that bidder was Mobile Dredging and Video Pipe Incorporated, and I believe that's our only?
Yes.
Is that our only? Okay. That was our only bidder for SC 1047R Pipeline Assessment and Maintenance Citywide. Up next, for procurement, we have RFQ 000778. This is for catering services.
Alrighty, we have received one bid from Cilantro LLC, DBA Petamore. Did not know you beat it up, Petamore. That's great.
Petamore. That's cute.
Okay, I have. I think I've received about one original.
One, do we have a flash drive?
No flash drive.
No flash drive. 0. One original. Do we have a copy? Oh, we have lots
No.
of paper clips. No copy. Okay. Is there a total or is
There
this itemized?
is, and there is no total.
So this is, can someone explain?
I think the total might be an Excel error.
Okay.
Well, or it could just be a list price. Was this supposed to be a total list price?
Does this belong to anyone who's with us in the audience, this bid? I have this listed as Quintina Felder? Is it Kin? She's not, okay. We cannot identify a total for this bid, so we are not going to read it, and instead refer to the agency, and apologies to everyone trying to listen to this. There is work being done to City Hall, and the banging gets really loud from time to time. Okay, so that bidder was Cilantro LLC, doing business as Petamore, and we do not see a total, so we'll be referring this to the agency. And that was our only bidder for RFQ 000778 catering services. Up next, RFQ 000789 Network Access Control Solutions. I believe this is a Part A, so we're only opening technical qualifications and not the bid amount, not the
Yeah.
money, not the Part B.
So I'll announce that I've received the Part A and who the vendor is, and note that I have a Part B as well.
Okay, I'll make a column for that.
Okay, the first bid received for RFQ 000789 is from Blue Ally. Let me get their full name.
I have Blue Alley Technology Solutions, LLC.
Yeah, I'm looking. That's correct. Blue Ally Technology Solutions, LLC.
Oh, I said Blue Alley, but it probably is Ally. I don't know.
Tomato, potato. We have a technical, a flash drive, one duplicate of the technical.
So we have one clearly marked original.
Yes.
And we have.
And then where are the Part Bs?
Okay, so they are in the cabinets. So
Can you get them?
Yeah, we
Thank
need
you.
to record that we received it. just hang tight, folks, because we want to be able to verify that we have received the Part B at this time, because even though we're not opening it, it's required, so Shalant is going to get that stack of Part Bs from our locked cabinet, so we can just add that to the record. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing out there. Got it. I'd cue up music, but that's all I got.
I guess you're gonna have to sing for us.
No. We lose so many viewers that way.
At least one city agency told me they watch this for fun. I asked them to reevaluate
We have
their
fans.
definition of fun. Thank you. Okay, and I have the Part B from Blue Ally or Blue Ali. We'll find out
Received.
later.
So that
Here.
bidder is Blue Alley, Blue Ally Technology Solutions. And we have received a Part A, which we have opened today, and we received a Part B, which will be scheduled to be open at a later time once the agency gives us the green light.
Cool. All right, the next one is from FSIT Networks, LLC. We have a original, no duplicate, and we don't have a flash drive, but we do have a CD-ROM.
Oh, CD, again. CD.
I hope Abe has a CD-ROM player on his computer.
I hope so too.
Oh, wow.
You guys must have the last one in city government. So a CD-ROM, one original, and one dupe.
No duplicate, sorry.
No duplicate.
One original, one CD.
Got it. Okay, sorry.
And I can tell you that we have the Part B, it's unopened.
Receipt. Got it. So that bidder was FSIT Networks. Part A is received, and Part B has been received to be opened once the agency schedules that opening.
Okay.
And
the last bid received for RFQ 000789 is from DSI Tech. I have an original, I have a clearly marked duplicate, I have a flash drive, and I got a Part B. Part B.
yeah, your Boston was showing there.
Just giving the audience what they want.
So that was DSI Tech. Their Part A has been received and opened, and their Part B has also been received, sealed, until such time as the Part B opening is scheduled. That was our third of and final bidder for RFQ 000789, Network Access Control Solution. Up next, we have for procurement RFQ 000801. This is for emergency elevator phone maintenance, repair, inspection, and installation services.
We have received no bids.
That seems like it's going to be a problem.
Viewers in the Benton building might be yelling.
Yeah, I'm looking at my colleagues from procurement to make sure we do have the right opening date, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry to say, no bids received, guys. Again, that was RFQ 000801, emergency elevator phone maintenance, repair, inspection, and installation services. We have received no bids for this solicitation.
Good.
Up next for procurement, RFQ 000803, lead hazard reduction program.
Workers' comp. All right, we have quite a few bids, so settle in,
We have
folks.
7. We'll find out.
Not gonna spoil the end. Okay, the first one is from the Lead Experts. Expert is missing the first E. It starts with XPERTS LLC. I have I could just take that. Okay, I have, these aren't marked, so I have four originals.
Okay, we have 4 originals. We treat them, as a reminder, we treat them all as originals unless we have clearly marked duplicates.
Oh.
So that does also mean for folks who might be coming to look at this bid, that when we have only originals, all original materials go with the agency. We only retain a single copy as long as it's marked clearly as a duplicate. So for this bidder, the Lead Experts LLC, we have 4 originals. Do we have a flash drive?
And no flat,
Not the Zerkins.
no flat.
That's a different one.
Not
Okay,
hid-
good.
hiding
No flash
anywhere
drive.
in envelopes, okay.
Yeah.
No flash drive. And are these totals?
This is a total that I'll read.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
don't worry, I got you.
very tiny. I'll have to have Shalonda hold that for me.
The,
Can you see that?
yes, but not for long.
I
The total is
yeah.
$2,889,550.00.
Okay. Shalon, can you read that? To just do a comparison? Because I seriously can't read that number.
If you can't read it, that's okay.
Yes, that's the number.
Okay.
2889550.00?
Yes.
Okay. I only had to guess at the 8 and the 9.
I think that's a size 4
They're a little
font.
too similar. Okay, so I'm going to share that number one more time. That was the Lead Experts LLC for $2,889,550.00. Oh, sorry.
Okay, the next bid we have is from Let It Go LLC.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Channeling my Indina Mazel. And I have 1 original, 1, 2, and 3 duplicates. I do not have a flash drive.
No flash drive, okay. And may I have a duplicate?
Let it go. Thanks. And the grand total, basis of award, is $5,865,447.20.
That number was, oops. That number was 5,865,447.20.
That's correct.
Okay, that bidder was Let It Go for $5,865,447.20.
Thank you. Okay, our next bid received is from MM Property Preservation LLC. I have an original, I have a flash drive. I have 1, 2. I have 4 originals.
Oh, not clear, no clearly marked dupes?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Ooh, wrong paper. Okay, and the grand total, $5,580,476.36.
That number was 5,580,476.36.
That's correct.
Okay, that bidder was MM Property Preservation LLC for $5,580,476.36.
Okay, our next bid is from Atlas EnviroCare and Abatement Services LLC. I received a flash drive. And 3 originals. I can read the total when you're ready.
Okay.
The total amount is $5,569,004.84.
That number is 5,569,004.84.
That's correct.
Okay. That bidder was Atlas EnviroCare and Abatement Services LLC for $5,569,004.84. That paperclip is.
Okay, our next bidder is PJC Construction LLC.
Okay.
I have a flash drive. And I have 4 originals. And the grand total is $5,861,847.20.
That number was 5,861,847.20.
Correct?
That bidder was PJC Construction LLC for $5,861,847.20.
Okay, our next bid is from Claudel Construction.
How do you spell that?
CL.
Hold on, I have a typo here.
Okay.
CL.
Sorry, sorry, I'm reading it wrong. CAUDLE.
Caudle. Very French.
And also with you.
Okay.
We have received 3 originals, 1 flash drive.
1 flash drive, 3 originals.
And the total award is $4,940,266.90.
That number is 4,940,266.90.
Correct?
And that was for Caudle Construction for $4,940,266.90. And sorry if we mispronounced that.
Viewers can write in with
several
their
ways.
preferred pronunciation. Okay, the next bid is from Modulus LLC. I have a original flash drive.
1 original, 1 flash.
Yeah, I have 4 originals.
4 originals.
And the total bid is.
Oh, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
$4,904,988.40.
That number was 4,904,988.40.
Correct.
That bidder was Modulus LLC for $4,904,988.40. And that was our final of 7 bidders?
Correct.
That was our final of 7 bidders for RFQ 000803. And just as a reminder, a number of these were only originals, so we will not have copies on view in our office for vendors to review. These will all be referred to the agency. And I have one little, I'm going to straighten up this formatting real fast. It's not letting me do it. Okay, we'll figure it out later. The numbers aren't lined up. It's bothering my OCD.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to tweak the formatting in that column because they're, some are centered and some are right. And there's some addresses missing on that one. Okay. Up next, we have for procurement RFQ 000804 for Weatherization Assistance Program and HVAC Service 2026.
Okay, we have 4 bidders, and the first one is Calhoun Brothers LLC. I have original with a flash drive. And I have 3 duplicates.
And is this a total?
Um,
I see a total on page 18. Oh, no. That's the MBE page, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's not, is that the total? The top of that says MBE, I don't think
yeah,
that is.
so we
the-
don't read that one.
I'm not sure that's the total page.
Nope, that's MBE
Yeah, oh,
page.
yeah, that's it.
Okay, no total.
I don't see a total either.
Yeah.
This is not.
Okay.
Um,
So Calhoun, or refer that to the
do-
agency?
You're looking at an original.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not seeing a total.
No,
bid
there's no
amount,
total.
here either, so. Okay, these will, the bid for Calhoun Brothers LLC will be referred to the agency because we don't see a total, a clear total in the bid packet or copy.
Okay. The next bid is from Northeast Energy Services LLC. I have an original, I have a flash drive, and I have 3 duplicates.
Okay.
Yes, awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and I can read the total amount. $10,246,348.64.
That number was 10,246,348.64.
Correct.
Okay, that bidder was Northeast Energy Services LLC, and the total was $10,246,348.64.
Thank you. It's handy. The next bid is from SM Mechanical LLC. I have 1 original. I have 1 original and 3 duplicates and a flash drive.
Okay. Thank you.
And the total amount is,
Hang on a sec.
sorry.
What page are you?
Oh, I gave you the unmarked one, sorry, it's just as much of a riddle. It's probably like 10 pages in. Okay. Do you have it?
Got it.
$10,388,598.00.
That number was 10,380,598.00.
Correct?
Okay, that bidder was SM Mechanical for $10,380,598.00.
Thank you. All right, this bid is for DeVere Installation Company, Home Performance. And we have a lot of paper. We have 2 originals.
No flash drive?
No flash drive.
2 originals.
Okay. And I can read the total. Oh, you wanted one of them, don't you?
Thanks. Okay.
The total is $10,278,306.47.
Okay, that number was 10,278,306.47.
That's correct.
Okay, that bidder was DeVere Insulation Home Performance for $10,278,306.47. And that was our final of 4 bidders for RFQ 000804, Weatherization Assistance Program and HVAC Service 2026. And that was our last opening for today. Thanks, everyone, right?
Yes, Madam Clerk,
So
I
hard to
want to
breathe, and
make
I
sure
was
the
scared.
public knows that there's, these results hopefully can be posted by the end of the day, but there is emergency maintenance scheduled on the website, so they may not go up until tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that very nice public service announcement. And that concludes the bid opening for May 20th, 2026. Our next bid opening is June 3rd, 2026 at noon. And thanks, everyone, for being here, and thank you to our agencies who join us and support us in the audience so we open these things the right way. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.